Hospitals today face a myriad of challenges that necessitates the need to initiate change in order to save money, improve processes, and fully engage staff in order to create a culture of continuous improvement. Our speaker today is a recognized change expert with 15 years leading total quality management initiatives at Transport Canada and over 21 years of experience leading change initiatives in healthcare organizations across the United States and Canada. He helps organizations establish self-sustaining, lean cultures. He is the author of the Lean for Healthcare series and is a contributing author to the Keystones and Cornerstones series of books. He received his Lean Black Belt in Healthcare from the Institute of Industrial Engineers in 2011. Michael Bayer is a member of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, Toastmasters International, the Society of American Magicians, 4 airline frequent flyer clubs, 3 hotel reward programs, 2 car rental frequent driver programs, and Costco. Today, Michael will share some of his insights about Lean and how it can transform our organizations regardless of our business. Please help me welcome Michael Bayer.
Thank you. Enoch Hoffenmeyer is the Chief Financial Officer of a small, rural, critical access hospital in Southern Illinois. He's poring over his year-end financial statements in preparation of presenting them to his board. He has a variance he can't explain. He's checked the numbers twice and 3 times, and no matter where he looks, he can't figure out why. He has an unexpected, unexplained $1 million over budget profit. Who wouldn't love to explain that variance to their board of directors? Carolyn Marlott is the materials management manager at a hospital in North Carolina. Her staff complained that the inventory management system they were using was both inefficient and ineffective. Supplies were being wasted because of expiry dates. Working with her staff, Carolyn developed a new inventory management system that reduced the amount of on-hand inventory and virtually eliminated expired supply waste, saving her hospital $350,000. Who wouldn't love to have a hardwired improvement process in their organization? Harry Selden is a phlebotomist at a hospital in Texas. So when Harry takes a blood draw, he would use a butterfly-shaped bandage. But Harry realized that these bandages were expensive. So he decided he would use a regular bandage unless circumstances dictated otherwise. In just 1 year, Harry saved his hospital $12,000 in bandage expenses. Who wouldn't love to have engaged employees like Harry on their staff? All of these savings were generated in small, rural, critical access hospitals, 25 beds or less, by clients that I have worked with who have developed successful, self-sustaining lean cultures of continuous improvement. So, what is lean? Well, folks, if you think that lean is a weight reduction program, you're in the wrong room. Well, first of all, lean is not an acronym. Lean merely describes the process of slimming down an organization, of eliminating waste, of improving processes, and creating a culture of continuous improvement. Lean is built on 2 basic principles. The first principle is nothing is done unless it's in response to the voice of the customer. The second principle is everything is done with respect. You don't do lean, you become lean. Lean is not slash and burn. Lean is not cutting staff and reducing. Lean is not a quick fix. Lean is a growth strategy. It's based on gaining market share by working smarter, not harder. So the inspiration for Lien came to Taichi Ono, the father of Lien and a Toyota engineer, from two sources. The first was the Ford Motor Company. So what did Henry Ford invent? No, not the car. Henry Ford invented the moving assembly line. So the worker would stand in one spot, the work would come to them, they would do their part, the work would move on, and more work would come to them in a continuous flow. The second inspiration came from Piggly Wiggly. Anyone here shop at Piggly Wiggly? Yeah. My wife loves Piggly Wiggly. Whenever we drive south to North Dakota to shop, I guess you figured out I'm a Canadian, right? Yeah. Well, I always ask her, honey, where do you want to go shopping? And she always says, I want to go to Piggly Wiggly. I'm going, why do you want to go to Piggly Wiggly? She said, I think it's a funny name. But do you know the innovation that Piggly Wiggly brought to America? In 1916, Piggly Wiggly was the first store that allowed the customer to select their groceries. Before then, you would go in, you would tell the shopkeeper what you wanted, they would assemble and bag your groceries and hand you the bag. But Piggly Wiggly allowed the customer to select their groceries, virtually eliminating complaints about bruised fruit, dented cans, and almost expired dairy products. However, it forced Piggly Wiggly to have the inventory on hand that customers wanted to buy when the customer wanted to buy it. So you're asking yourselves, how does a moving assembly line in an automobile factory and a self-service grocery store relate to healthcare? Well, think about the visit to an emergency room. The patient comes in, they register, they see a physician, they go for tests, they wait for results, a diagnosis is made, a care plan is developed and implemented, and then they're discharged. Now, at each step of this process, value is added by people providing a service to the patient. The challenge we have is we have to get the patient to flow smoothly through the process in a continuous flow and to ensure that the service the patient needs is there when the patient needs it. If you've ever had to wait in a waiting room, you know that waiting is a waste of the patient's time. So, what really is waste? Waste is any activity that does not add value for the customer. And in healthcare, that is the patient. Waste includes all kinds of things, for instance, undue long wait times, being sent back to the lab for repeat tests because of lab errors, or showing up for a procedure only to find out that the procedure was canceled and the staff neglected to tell the patient. Now, waste is not the root. Now, waste is a symptom of a problem, not the root cause. Lien focuses on eliminating the root cause of waste. Dr. Don Burbick, the former CEO of the Institute of Healthcare Improvement, said, the level of waste in U.S. healthcare is 50%. 50%. Imagine if we could just recoup 1%. What difference would that make to you and to your hospital? And ironically, the customer does not pay for waste. The hospital pays for waste by being less competitive. And the hospital can only gain that competitive edge back when it removes the waste. I recently interviewed a new nurse at a hospital client in Kansas. She told me that the biggest difference between her old job at her hospital and her job at the new hospital was the culture of continuous improvement. She told me that everyone is expected to look for opportunities to improve and then to make those changes happen. I asked her what her biggest challenge was. She told me her biggest challenge was knowing who was on call. She would spend at least an hour a day looking up names and phone numbers. Her innovation? At the start of her shift, she would sit down, she would create an on-call list, put it on the back of her employee badge. If she had to make a call during the day, she would grab her badge, look up the number, pick up the phone, and dial. She shared her innovation with her department. Now, at the beginning of every shift, someone is tasked with the responsibility of creating an on-call list and distributing it to everyone in the department. Now that nurse and her colleagues can now spend that previously wasted time caring for their patients. Anyone here ever had an x-ray? Isn't it a great experience, right? They send you into a room. They say, take your clothes off. No, I'm not going to do that. Put on this gown. They bring you out. And they lie you on the apparatus, which feels like a piece of sheet steel that has just come out of a freezer. They contort you in the most uncomfortable possible position and say, take a deep breath and don't move. And after what seems like an hour, they say, okay, you can get up and get dressed now. Well, needless to say, comments on patient satisfaction forms are not always complimentary. A group of radiology technologists at a hospital in Wyoming decided that they wanted to somehow enhance the patient experience when they came in for imaging. So using simple lean tools that they learned in training, they studied the layout of their department. Their solution was surprisingly simple. By moving just one machine, they reduced the amount of time the patient spent on the apparatus, greatly enhancing the patient experience. However, on the business side, the resultant savings of 45 minutes a day allowed them to take care of 2 more patients a day. It increased revenue with minimal increased expenses, and the staff was not as fatigued at the end of the day because of the new optimized layout. All benefits because they eliminated waste, improve processes, and have a culture of continuous improvement. Now, I've been talking a lot about time and money, but it's not just about time and money. At a hospital in Nebraska, the dialysis unit is located at the front of the hospital. It has a separate entrance immediately adjacent to the main door of the hospital. There's parking spots in front of the unit, but these are prime parking spots, and they're usually filled. This requires dialysis patients to sometimes walk long distances across the parking lot to come to the unit for treatment. The staff, empowered and inspired by a culture of continuous improvement, decided that they would do something. They designated the first 4 spots immediately in front of the dialysis unit for use by dialysis patients only. They had special parking signs made, and they gave the dialysis patients special parking passes to use. The impact on patient satisfaction was incredible. The positive response from patients and their families was incredible. There was no financial impact here, but they listened to the voice of their customer. They eliminated that needless movement across a parking lot and had a big impact on the patient experience. So, remember that $1 million I talked about at the beginning? How did $1 million show up on Enoch Hoffenmeyer's year-end financial statements? Well, when he started to examine his revenue streams, he realized and noticed that there was a sharp increase in revenues attributed to IVs that started at the beginning of the year and continued on through the rest of the year. When he dug deeper, he discovered why. The coders who were coding invoices for reimbursement noticed and felt that there may be some errors in the recording of the start and stop times on IVs. Working with the nurses, they found the error in the process and corrected it. And in the first month, billed an additional $80,000. Because the expenses were all properly recorded, this represented $80,000 of previously unbilled profit, which over the course of a year resulted in an accumulation of $1 million. The stories I've shared with you this morning are typical stories and examples of what happens when we make the commitment to become lean. But to do that, we have to change our culture and we have to change our way of thinking. Albert Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems by using the same thinking we used when we created them." When we make a commitment to become lean, we notice an immediate change in the culture of our organizations. Everyone is empowered to look at processes, to eliminate waste, and to create a culture of continuous improvement for the benefit of the organization and its customers and its employees. So now that you know the benefits of lean and the value of having a culture of continuous improvement, what's preventing you from making miracles happen in your organization? So, what's your $1 million question? Is it how to save time and improve processes? Is it how to increase your patient or customer satisfaction? Is it how to save some money? Is it how to engage your staff? Is it how to hold your staff accountable? No matter what your question, lean is your $1 million answer.